Welcome to At Ease with Cooking. I'm Bonnie Kerschke, your host. Now, it's been said that there are as many recipes for chili as there are cooks, and that could very well be true. But how many of us can say that we have a true Texas recipe for chili? Well, guest demonstrator Valerie Amendola can say that because she grew up in Texas, and while she was living there, she learned how to prepare Texas Trail chili. And we'll begin our program this evening with Valerie preparing her delicious chili recipe. Hi, Valerie.
Hello, Bonnie. How are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Fine.
It's so great to have you here.
Well, I'm a little nervous, but I'm glad to be here.
We have so much fun here, and this recipe sounds like it's going to be just a marvelous one.
Oh, well, most everybody loves it when I make it, and they ask for it over and over again.
It's a little bit different than what a lot of people are used to because it uses actual pieces of meat rather than ground meat.
But on the trail, that's what they had.
That's
They
right.
butchered whatever they had available.
And that's right, and this is really an authentic trail recipe.
That's what I'm told, and I got it from a true cowboy.
A true cowboy. Where do we start?
Well, first of all, we're going to heat this up, and we're going to put in some oil to get it hot. And I'm making really a half a recipe for today on the show because it's really good and everybody likes it, so we make a nice big one. And the recipe, if you want to write in for it, has the full recipe.
That's right, and we'll be giving you an address at the end of the show that you can write in for today's recipes.
So we'll let that oil get just a little bit hot on that.
Now, do you use regular vegetable oil on that?
You can use, I use olive oil.
Olive oil, okay.
But you could use a vegetable oil. Wouldn't make any difference on that. And then put in your...
Some nice garlic.
Garlic.
Yummy. That always makes everything smell and taste so good, doesn't it?
And that flavors the oil, too, if you put it in first. Type thing. And I'm going to turn this up a little bit.
A little bit, okay.
So it gets hot on that.
Now, you said you got this from a real cowboy.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me that story?
Well, it's many years ago in the 60s when I was working for Eastern Airlines, which is no longer around these days, in Houston. And the gentleman, his name was Charles Hudgens, and we all called him Cowboy. That was his nickname. He used to ride the Saltgrass Trail ride into Texas. And his cook in their chuck wagon made this chili. And we used to go out there and visit. And he was saying, you know, they used what they had on the trail and what would keep well.
Oh, sure.
Type thing.
Made sense.
And, you know, garlic and onions stay well. They had their spices. They had canned tomatoes and beans back then. So they had those. And they had their beef from whatever they butchered on the thing. Potatoes and corn stayed well.
Oh, sure.
And so they made a full meal out of one dish. And those people were really hungry when they came in from working on the trail.
I bet they were.
Now we're going to put in the onions and get them a little bit brown.
Great history lesson we've had here about the cowboys, huh? It's always interesting to learn a little bit of background of a recipe.
Yeah.
I think you've been making this for a few years then.
Yeah, long time. But it's just really is very tasty, and it's all you need, a salad, this, and maybe some cornbread or a corn casserole, and you're great.
Oh, wonderful.
And kids love it, adults love it, and you can make it wimpy for those that don't like it too hot, or you can make it spicy. I make it spicy. I don't make it so hot you can't taste the ingredients, though. So, you know,
sure, you want to be sure that
it can have a kick and it can be tasty, but you don't want it just so you taste the hot. There's lots of good ingredients in here that you would like to have the flavors in.
Well, that's a good tip then. Don't make it too hot. So, great.
And as soon as these are just slightly brown, I'm going to put them in the pot over here.
All right.
And then we're going to put in the meat and brown it. This is just regular stew meat you can get from the grocery store. And I have already cut it, and then you cut it into bite-sized pieces only.
Okay.
And take off any extra fat. Usually they're pretty lean. If you catch London broil on sale, it's really nice to get those. You can put them in the freezer or cut them up, and it makes a very nice one, too. And sometimes, if it's on sale, it's cheaper than the stew meat.
Yes.
Type thing.
That's a good tip to know. London broil. Great.
Oh, okay, now, if you'll hand me that, I will.
I'm just going to pass this.
Okay, the other thing is you want to brown your meat in the pan without the onions because they brown better and there's nothing under the meat to keep it from browning and it won't steam on you.
Okay, got it. You're not going to need this anymore, are you?
I don't. Yes, I will. I will
All
need
right.
it for the potatoes.
Oh, that's right. All right. Ooh, that looks like nice meat.
And you just want it nicely browned.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really pretty quick. There's a little time for cooking, but the preparation is really not hard.
No.
So.
Now, perhaps you can tell us, while the meat is cooking, what some of these other ingredients that you're going to use
We
are.
have the chili powder, and we have Hungarian paprika.
All right.
And it's really good for color. It doesn't have a lot of flavor, but it's good for the color.
For the color.
You have oregano, salt and pepper, a little red cayenne pepper.
Okay.
And that can be as much or as little as you like, depending on how spicy. The same thing with the chili powder, as much as you like to make it spicy or not spicy. And then this is just peeled tomatoes, canned tomatoes, that you've chopped up in bite-sized pieces.
And it's just canned tomatoes, not any stewed tomatoes.
No.
Just canned tomatoes.
It's canned peeled tomatoes.
All right.
Kind thing. And of course, now if you are making it at midnight, when you got home because you're just dying for chili after you've been out sledding, and you don't have them, and you have Italian tomatoes, that's fine too.
Yeah.
They have a little oregano in it, you're okay.
Right, yeah.
And since I live with an Italian person,
Yes.
I often have Italian tomatoes stashed around the house.
I bet you do.
Okay. Now you would brown this a little bit better than this, but for time's sake here, we're going to go ahead and put in a little bit of chili powder, right? Because you want the meat to be very flavorful.
Oh, great.
Of the
And
chili.
The heat kind of releases the...
Can you smell it?
Yes, the spices.
The crew will
Ooh,
enjoy
yes.
this afterwards, I
Yes.
bet.
Oh, yes, they always do.
Okay.
And we have some real chili lovers
Let me
here
have you
too.
my
All right.
pat. Here. And you would have browned that a little bit more than we did. Okay, now if you'll put that on the heat
All right.
for me.
And we're ready for that one.
Okay. So now you're going to mix it in with the onions and the garlic.
Oh, it is really smelling good.
Okay, and I'm going to put just a titch of the pepper. Lots of paprika. And the recipe has all the correct amounts. And like I said, I'm making a half one here.
Ooh. Oh, the aroma. Wonderful.
Oregano. Don't need a lot of salt. And some black cracked pepper. Little as much as you like.
Ooh. Smelling so good, Valerie.
And now you're going to put in the tomatoes.
That would be like about a 1 pound can, is that what?
I use a 16-ounce,
16,
the 32-ounce can,
32.
the big can,
Okay.
when I'm making the full
The full
recipe.
recipe, okay.
Again, this is half. And actually, I'm going to need just a little bit of water. I didn't think I would, but those weren't as juicy as they
All
normally
right.
are.
Okay.
I could have about a half a cup of water.
You tell me when.
That's good. Okay. Now you got lots of color in here. You got lots of your onions and your red tomatoes. And it would cook about 20 minutes. You want to cook it, bring it to boil.
And you leave it covered or uncovered?
I cover it
You
generally.
cover it, all right.
I have
think
it right down
back
here.
down there.
Okay.
And,
And while we're doing that, I'm going to chop up the potato.
all right.
And you want it in bite size. I've already washed them.
And you just leave the peel on.
Yeah. They didn't do a lot on those kind of chuck wagons.
No, that's right. They probably didn't have a potato peeler.
Plus, it's good for you.
Yes, they are. The peelings are good for you.
And you won't be able to see the difference.
Once it's cooked.
And actually, it holds them together a little bit better.
Yes, I'm sure that would be the case.
Because you don't want them to fall apart and be mush.
No.
Just cut them up easy.
Almost like a bit of a stew consistency.
And it has the vegetables in it and the crunchiness and all the flavors.
Great recipe.
I'm going to set this back here.
Now, a little bit of steam there. Have to be careful.
And you would have turned it down at this time and cooked it for about 20 minutes and had it really nice. And by this time, the meat would actually be done, but it probably wouldn't be tender. The tomatoes would have been disintegrated just a little bit, but they're still noticeable. You don't want them to go away. And then you put in your potatoes.
The potatoes.
And once you put the potatoes in, all you're now is doing is bringing them back up, and you cook them for the 20 or 25 minutes it takes for them to be pierced by a fork readily. You don't want them mushy.
No.
You don't want them disintegrated.
No, don't want them too hard either.
But that's all you have to do. How are we doing on time?
Well, we're okay.
Okay, good. I always worry about that. And you would just let that simmer on there type thing.
All right.
And then we're going to, after we do that, we have ranch-style beans. They come in a black can, and that's what they're called, ranch-style beans.
Okay.
And you can find them in the vegetable aisle. If you can't find them, which sometimes up here in the north, you can't on some of the stores, you could use a good chili bean. But you don't want a hot one. You want a medium or mild chili bean because you already have all your spices in here.
Sure.
And without a meat, of course, because you've already got everything in there.
That's right.
But the ranch-style beans, I find, have a really nice complementary. They're mild, but they hold up and they're not mushy, which is very nice.
Yes.
And you would just put that in. And at this point, everything else was cooked, and the potatoes would have been cooked. And you're only going to heat it up so that the beans are hot and the frozen corn.
Okay.
Now, of course, on the trail, they wouldn't have had frozen corn.
No.
But they would have had ears of corn, which last a great deal of time. And they would have cut the corn off of the ears and put them in there. Because they were a vegetable, they make it a little sweet. Because, you know, corn is sweet.
Now, do you leave that frozen when you put it in? All right.
Just directly out of the bag and out of the freezer. If I'm very ambitious, which doesn't happen too often in the summer, if there is fresh corn, I will actually take it off the cob. Because there is
yes,
nothing
I
better.
bet that really
But if I go to
great.
the trouble to do that, I'm making my real cream corn because it is so good when you have fresh corn.
Yes, it certainly is.
I
Oh,
think.
that's a beautiful.
But now look at the color.
Great.
It has good, the corn is crunchy. The potatoes are just done. The beans stay nice and firm because you haven't cooked the beans. You just heat them up because they're already cooked in the can.
Sure.
And it's just wonderful. Kids love it, and they get all their vegetables, and they don't even know it.
They don't. They don't.
Or they don't
even know.
complain.
That's a real plus, isn't it?
Sometimes I understand. There we go. And we would turn that down after it was all in. Like I said, you really wouldn't cook it much more after this because you just want to make sure that the corn is all hot and the beans are hot because everything else would have already been cooked.
And you have one that's already been
Yes, we
cooked
do.
back here that you're going to dish up for us to show this beautiful Texas Trail chili.
Chili?
No chicken today.
Well, I guess you could put chicken in it, though.
Oh, look at that. Doesn't that look beautiful?
And now you can serve this with corn chips, as we have some corn chips over here.
Move those over here.
Yeah. Or you could use some green onions, which is very nice.
That looks nice.
Or now some people like raw onions on it type thing. And a little cheese
Doesn't that look good?
type thing. And it's really quite tasty. You put a salad with that,
You've got
and
it.
you've got everything.
You've got that Texas Trail chili.
Y'all will really like this chili.
Yes. Thanks so much, Valerie.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate sharing your recipe from the cowboy with us.
Well, since we matched
Yes, we do
accidentally
match.
today, I appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Valerie. And coming up next, Rita Heckroth is going to be preparing south of the border cabbage salad. Hi, Rita.
Hi.
It's so great to have you with us this evening, and you have got a salad that looks fantastic. It's got so many wonderful, healthy things in it. Why don't you tell us how you're going to prepare it?
It's actually prepared in 3 stages.
Okay.
We have the basic salad, which is the cabbage and the spinach, with some goodies that go with it that we'll talk about. And then we have a vinaigrette dressing, which goes on the salad.
Ooh.
And the vinaigrette dressing doesn't have any salt in it, so the salad can be preserved longer if you need to.
Great.
And then on top of that, we have an avocado dressing,
Ooh,
which is one of my favorite things. And then that's served with sesame seed.
oh, this sounds
topping.
this sounds just great. Why don't we get started? I can
Okay.
hardly wait.
A lot of ingredients, but every step is simple. And as you say, when you're done, you end up with a just incredibly colorful salad,
Oh,
which makes it good for Christmas.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Anytime. And with the Texas Trail chili, it's going to be just great.
Right. Well, you start with adding all your salad ingredients together, the basic ingredients, which is your cabbage.
That's beautiful.
use
And,
all
and
of
you just cut that up by hand, right?
Just slice it as thin as you can,
Yeah.
because otherwise cabbage can be sometimes tough. So you have to make it thinly sliced.
Okay.
And spinach, which is one of my favorite things anyway. And when you do the spinach, you can do this thinly sliced also, but I like it thick enough so that you can see the spinach when you're done.
Right, and then it'll hold some of the dressing
Yeah,
too. Oh, that's beautiful.
And then we add our water chestnuts sliced.
Oh, what crunch that's going to give.
Give it a crunch, as you say.
That's great.
And we add some sliced julienne beets.
More
And
color.
that's for color, just as you say.
Beautiful. It's going to add some different flavor too.
Yeah. The pineapple, we add it with the juice, and it really gives it an interesting taste, a little bit different taste than your normal
Sure.
normal
I'm going to
salad.
remove this for you so you have a little bit of room when you go to do some tossing here.
Yeah. And last, you add your onion. And I like to slice the onion because everything else is kind of sliced and it kind of goes together. So rather than
Yes,
chopping
chopping it.
onion, I like to slice the onion.
Good.
And I'm not going to add all of it. If the onion is a little sharp, if it's very, very strong, then you don't want to add so much. So you kind of have to play the onion by ear.
Yes, and sometimes they can be just wonderful, and other times just so strong that you're just crying when you're cutting them.
So that's the first step. And I like to go ahead and mix this together so that the flavors have a little bit of time to kind of mix together first.
Oh, wonderful.
Let's see if I can do this without
Here,
pouring it all
oh.
over the floor.
Oh yeah, well that happens in kitchens. It
that-
goes flying
yeah.
sometimes, so and we just don't worry about
I guess
that.
the other is the elbow in the eye.
Yeah, right. Oh, it is
Yeah.
a beautiful. And once you get the dressing on too, that will it will settle down a little bit in the bowl and make it a little bit easier. What
Right.
beautiful
So that's our
color.
start. Okay.
All right.
Now for the second part, we do the vinaigrette, and we're going to just do just about everything right here in this container with the oil. Now this is olive oil.
All
It's
right.
not extra virgin. It's just plain old
Plain
olive oil.
olive oil.
Extra virgin sometimes is so flavorful it can overpower a salad, so
All
you have
right.
to be careful with that. And I'm going to add some vinegar. This is cider vinegar.
All right.
Cider vinegar has a little bit more flavor than your white
Than
vinegar.
the white vinegar,
but
right.
not as much as your wine vinegar, so it's kind of gives it
It's
the
a
right.
great compliment to the
Yeah.
olive oil, I would think.
And here we have some soy sauce,
Great.
and we have some basil, and some tarragon to give it just a little zip.
What a great vinaigrette.
And this is chicken bouillon. It's crumbled chicken bouillon, and there are a variety of different brands you can get. I think they're all about the same. And you want to get the crumbled one so that it will dissolve.
Yes, yes. The other one with the cube, you'd have a little bit more trouble getting that to
Right.
dissolve. That's a good tip.
And this is one of my favorite spices. It's oregano.
Oh, yes.
Kind of makes everything go really
And a
well.
South of the border one, we'd have to have a little oregano, don't we?
Yeah.
Mexican oregano is great.
And then I just, mix it up with a fork and let it sit there while I'm chopping my parsley.
Oh, well, great. So you don't even have to get a mixer or a blender or a processor out or anything.
No,
Just
this is-
mix it there.
Has a lot of ingredients, but it's really pretty simple.
Pretty simple. Great.
And it's all to be done at the last minute, and it can be done in the last minute. You can prepare your ingredients and get them ready to go, and then when your guests arrive, you can just kind of sneak away for about 2 minutes, and throw
and
everything
put it all
together.
together. Great. It's a great tip. Even you can do it with flourish at the table.
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably. I'm not quite that brave, but it works well. And I'm just going to chop the parsley. Some people like their parsley chopped really, really fine. I frankly like to see it, so I don't chop it
Know
quite
what
as
you're
fine.
eating.
Yeah, know what you're eating.
Now this is flat leaf.
This is an Italian parsley,
the
and
flat leaf.
I know that for a fact because Valerie bought it for me, and she only buys Italian parsley.
Exactly, right.
If I didn't know that, I might have to look more carefully at the leaf. But the
Yes, it
Italian
is a
has
nice Italian flat leaf
Yeah.
parsley. It's a little more. It's more flavorful.
more
than the
flavorful.
curly.
Yeah,
It's
I
just so nice.
got that information from Valerie. I've been following it ever since. Okay.
We have to mention that you and Valerie are friends.
Yeah, and then you just pour everything together.
Oh, beautiful.
And you put your parsley in.